Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of the Governing Board, Thursday, March 24th, 2022. And I'd like to call the meeting to order and indicate that we do have a quorum. And if you're able, please stand and we'll say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the first item of business is the approval of the minutes from February 24th, 2022, and the special meeting minutes from March 1st, 2022. Are there any additions or corrections to either of those items? Seeing none, they will stand approved as written and posted. Okay, the first thing we have on the agenda, I'd like to ask Dean Llewellyn, President of Park. Okay, Dean Llewellyn is president of ARC, and he's here today to present a check for $50,000 to the rec center to pay down the debt owed for the ARC building. This now takes ARC under the $500,000 mark, and Dean is going to have some words to speak. And if we want to have a picture.
Oh. Well, good morning, Sue and the governing board and Bill and the rec center management team. As she said, my name's Dean Llewellyn, rec number 56360. There aren't many 5-digit rec numbers walking around town these days. And I am the president of ARC this year. ARC put on our 10th annual car show and swap meet on February 12th in the South Johnson parking lot. And it was the biggest and probably the best event that ARC has ever delivered. We had over 430 entrants. We usually have around 380 or so. The food trucks sold out. We sold all the Corvette raffle tickets, and we estimated there's probably 9,000 people walked through that day. It was really a great event for us and for the whole community. As a result of the show, the ARC board approved this check for $50,000 as a payment on the principal on the building we work and play in every day. It represents two major milestones. As Sue said, it put our principal down below $500,000. Actually, it's actually just below $475,000. And second, it represents the payback of 2/3 of the original loan on the building. And we just wanted to share those two milestones with you. We're really grateful for your faith in our club, and the repayment of the building remains our primary focus going forward. We do support other charitable organizations and groups as a 501c3 charter club. The ARC team raised over $3,900 for the Relay for Life event at Beardsley on February 20th. And we donated $2,000 to the local Alzheimer's Association from the proceeds of our second annual golf tournament at Echo Mesa on March the 5th. And finally, we contributed $500 for fishing tackle for the Cast for Kids Fishing Day at Lake Pleasant coming up on the 16th of April. So again, we thank you for all your continued support of ARC.
And now the real check.
To Pete. This is the real check.
Yes, the real check.
I'll give this to Pete.
Okay, Pete will take care of it. Thank you. And
Lunch is on you.
and we really appreciate all the other charitable things that you do for the community. That's fabulous. Okay, next on to the EOM reports as listed. And do we have a motion? Roberta?
4.08, that's why I was wondering.
Yeah, we went pretty fast from 1 through 7. You're up.
Okay. I move to accept the March 2022 end-of-month reports as filed information.
We have a second?
I second.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. All in favor? No? Wait, not in favor. We want discussion first. Sharon?
I have a couple of questions in regards to the EOM. Was a comment that was written in regards to CC&Rs that was Donna read at the that she read at the CC&Rs meeting?
Which EOM are you talking?
The CC&Rs? I mean, the charter clubs. sorry.
Chartered clubs, okay.
That statement is not correct, and it has not been discussed at all from our perspective as a board. No one has had a meeting regarding the 501c4s or set a policy yet. So it'd be impossible for someone to actually ask to be one or have anything to say about it yet. That's first of all. And second, in there it states that an attorney, that this was filed this way because you had some kind of a meeting. None of us have been included in any meeting or seen any records from an attorney regarding this. So I think it should be taken out.
Okay, I'll have to turn to Donna. This is a record of what their committee talked about at their meeting. So
I can't find it now.
Sharon, can you tell me where it is that you're specifically that you're talking about? Now that I have it up in front of me?
It says Chartered Clubs Committee, and the sentence is right there. It's the whole sentence. The following statement was made for the record. I don't think it should be in our minutes for the record because I don't believe it is correct. It
Okay.
should never have been presented to the committee this way.
Okay, however, this is how it was presented, and this is a record of what the committee did for the month. Yeah. Tim?
Yeah, just for clarification, could you specifically tell us which part of it you think is incorrect?
Okay. Thanks, Jim. Number one, it says one club has, I'm trying to find the sentences exactly where they are. You stated, a few clubs have, go back, I'm sorry, I can't read it. Voices of the community do not want the amenities open. First of all, voices in the community do not want the Sun City West amenities open to the public. No one asked that they ever be open to the public, nor having a 501c4, having us under a 501c4 is incorrect information that they would then be open to the public. That's one. No one has requested to be a subsidiary under the association. No one even knows about it because we haven't designed a policy at all about the 501c4s and how they would be determined. So how could someone ask for it? And the third part down here is the clubs desiring any change in their current status. They have, would take time and cause a possible threat to the parent 501c4. That has not been determined. Thanks.
Okay, is there someone who wants to respond? Go ahead, Donna.
It's her report.
The information that is in there was reiterated to me in a meeting with the attorney. The attorney specifically said that if we have a club as a, he referred to it as a branch of the association, it could jeopardize the association's status.
But
And I
that's
was-
not what was asked for to begin with, Donna, and you know that. We did not
But-
ask for a club to be a branch. We've never said that. We've never said anything regarding that. We've asked to have meetings about the 501c4 and how we can distribute this to the community instead of having to make all the changes we are currently having them make. And this has never been discussed.
Okay, it has been discussed, and it is a possibility, and there are pros and cons to it, but currently, I believe that our clubs are satisfied with the status that they have chosen, and they've made some choices, so it's on the boards for possibility, but certainly not something that the staff or have determined is a good option for many of our clubs. So it has been discussed. This is an end-of-month report. You're bringing up a topic that, maybe needs to be an agenda item, but this is a report of what the club or what the committee did at their meetings and what happened and what's said. So I don't understand why you would be trying to redo what already happened at the Chartered Clubs Committee.
I don't think you're being honest with the community at all.
Okay, we'll take that as your opinion. Ann?
Sharon, are you speaking as a board member, or are you representing a particular club in your comments?
No, I'm referring to this as a board member because it affects about 15 different clubs here, and we haven't discussed this with any of the clubs. So when you say they've made their decision on a false premise because you've not given them the opportunity to know that there's something else available.
General Manager, do you want to weigh in on this?
I don't want to put anyone on the spot here. I don't, what takes place at club meetings is what takes place at club meetings. I think our staff has been working with club presidents. I think options have been presented to club presidents. It hasn't maybe come to the board level, but as we were kind of deciphering through the situation that we found ourselves in, with clubs being identified through the IRS as social clubs in C7 status, it obviously presented some changes that needed to be made, right? So obviously we have taken the necessary steps that we've taken to help clean things up. I think Casey and her team have been working one-on-one with clubs. We have had clubs that have changed their status from C7s to other opportunities, be it nonprofit associations or organizations, upon themselves, seeking their own legal advice as far as what's the best route to move forward. So I think it's been an ongoing process. If there are clubs that care to be 501c4s and want to proceed that way, obviously they need legal advice, as do we, to bringing clubs under our umbrella. It's still a work in progress. It's being discussed at club level meetings at the committee level. And I'm not sure, other than the report, that what's basically is stating that what transpired at the meeting is just a little bit of a summary of what went down there. There's no decisions to be made there. It's just a report of what was conversed.
Thank you. Are there any other discussion comments? Any other comments about the EOMs? We have a motion on the floor. Okay, ready for a vote? All in favor? You want to read the motion again, please, Roberta?
I move to accept the March 2022 end-of-month reports as filed information.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
Okay, motion passes. Okay, next, each month we highlight one of the EOMs, and today we'd like Harry to talk a little bit about what the Golf Committee has been doing. Okay, go ahead, Harry.
My month-end report was we had a discussion on golf fees for the upcoming year, and the committee favorably agreed to proposal presented by Pat and Pete to be forwarded to the governing board. Discussion held on new policy GO4 relating to usage of golf carts and consensus given to move forward to workshop. Discussion held on golf lottery system, which Pat is looking into, the upgraded Grandview with forum dates scheduled for discussion with property owners and rounds of golf up with revenue being up accordingly. And I would like to personally give a real commendation to my committee. They're very involved. They get involved in the meetings. They express their ideas and present a lot of information for Pat and Todd to use in making their decisions.
Harry, did you want to fill us in a little bit about the golf fees?
Well, the golf fees are being brought forward by Pat and Pete. It's after the first discussion into the second discussion, the last meeting, we're going to see increases with the cost of RIC going up close to $600,000 to have our overseed. It makes quite a difference in the budget. But we changed a little of what we're doing in that there's going to be more increase during the busy time, i.e. right now, and those that are here in the summer in golf will not see as much of an increase in the fees because they're the ones that keep it going in the summer. And it really helps that we've got revenue then. And those that come from the outside in play will see a larger increase in their fees.
Thank you, Harry. Okay, let's move on to 5.02 unless we have other questions of Harry. Okay, 5.02, the filings. Ann?
Thank you, President Sue. The January 2022 and February 2022 financials have been reviewed and accepted by the Budget and Finance Committee. They have been filed.
Thank you. Okay, now on to new business. This activity we participate in every year about this time of year. It's the annual renewal of the Torch Special Committee. So I move that the Torch Special Committee be extended through March 2023. We have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ann. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Signify by saying aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, now we're on to 6.02, the new policy of powered golf carts. And I believe, Harry, are you doing that, or is your sidekick? Okay, there you go.
There, it's on. I move the governing board approve addition of a new golf policy G04, use of powered golf courts as redlined. And
Is there a
Tim
second?
put this together. Okay.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay,
Tim put this together and he's had to discuss it 3 times, so he's very good at it. Now let Tim discuss it.
okay. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Harry. During the COVID pandemic, our golf courses, we had to go to single carts, and it did considerable damage to the golf courses by having all those extra wheels driving over the turf. So basically, what this does is it authorizes the golf operations manager, with the approval of the general manager, to limit or restrict the number of powered golf carts or vehicles, and I'll explain vehicles in a minute, per foursome. And it sets conditions for traffic of powered golf carts or vehicles during fall overseeding or spring Bermuda grass transition from dormancy. What I mean by golf vehicles is, I think everybody's familiar with the golf carts, 2-passenger carts, 4-wheeled carts, but we're starting to see more alternative vehicles coming onto the golf course. There's some 3-wheeled little things. There's actually some bicycle type of golf carts. So we included not only golf cart, but golf vehicles to try to capture these other things that we're seeing on the golf courses. And basically what this is trying to do is just give golf operations a policy which they can enforce that allows them to restrict the number of carts on the golf courses. Because we have a lot of people now who don't want to ride with somebody else now. So basically they just want to take their own golf cart out there and it's having an effect on the golf courses. The other thing this does is it provides a limit of authority, and neither the golf operations manager nor the general manager shall set any fees for use of private golf carts or vehicles on association golf courts without the prior approval of the governing board of directors. And that's just periodically the proposal for golf cart fees, trail fees comes up, and we just thought it was important to make sure that the board approves that before it gets put into place.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments? Sharon?
Since I've seen the bicycles, I was telling Tim about them, they were bicycles with the golf bags on the back. And this says restrict the number of powered golf carts or vehicles allowed per foursome. If 4 people came and each one had one, would it be restricted that they couldn't use them?
That's not really the intent of this, if I may respond to you.
Sure, I didn't say intent. I'm just saying, would that allow them to do that?
Yes, it would. Really, what we're trying to do is to limit the weight and the number of wheels that are out on the golf
Sure.
courses, because particularly when the golf course is wet, heavier vehicles can damage the turf more than a bicycle type of vehicle would be. So no, that's not the intent.
Okay, so the question still comes is if somebody, I saw 3 of them, so I'm assuming that all 3 of them were playing golf. I just wanted to know if we said, no, you can't take those out because of the whatever, we decide we're not going to allow that, force them to do that, would we require them to rent a golf cart in
No.
place? Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Discussion? Any discussion from the audience? Okay, we're ready for a vote. We have had this, discussed this previously, so all those in favor? Oh, wait a minute, better read the motion again, Tim.
There.
Oh, Harry. Double tag.
I
Tag team
move
here.
that the governing board approve addition of a new golf policy, GO4, use of powered golf carts as redlined.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion passes. Okay, the next item that we're going to be talking about is FI 10. And we're going to go with a motion so that we can have the opportunity to discuss. But in the end, we probably will have this sent back to the table this and have it sent back to the committee that Ann has been working on. But let's go with the motion so we can have the discussion.
Thank you, President Sue. I move that the governing board approve in-gross language revisions to financial policy FI 10, Section 6, subsection 6, parentheses, vendor relations, into parentheses, as redlined.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Donna. Okay, discussion. Ann, you get the first chance.
This was quite a lengthy discussion at our Budget and Finance Committee meeting on Tuesday, and several members of the committee are in the audience today, and I appreciate all their comments because they really take this to heart, what we are doing. And we are trying to make sure that in vendor relationships, we do not have any conflicts of interest. We discussed this, we rediscussed this, and then we cussed it a little bit, but in the end, the motion failed until we had some questions answered by our corporate association attorney. Among those were the fact that, can we make a more restrictive ruling than the Arizona law? Do we have to follow the Arizona law? We did add the statute reference to this. And the last sentence we thought was originally an opinion that maybe should be removed. But our attorney did look at this, and we understand that there are 2 things being addressed here. One is people involved in decisions at a committee level. Another one is people involved in decision at a board level. So there is a distinction there that we weren't referring to when we were discussing it on Tuesday. It was all kind of flowing together. And so what you're seeing here now is a revision of that. And did you want me to read this, Sue, or is that necessary?
Well, why don't you read that paragraph, the red paragraph? Yeah, please do that.
Any employee, committee member, or governing board director of the association who holds or who has any member of their family who holds any interest in a business, company, or organization that directly or indirectly conducts business with the association or that may profit due to the association business or activity must disclose that interest to the appropriate general manager, committee chair, or governing board president as soon as possible. The first thing refers to committee service. Those employees and committee members, including directors who serve on committees involved in such interests, must abstain from participating in any discussion or decision-making process that may materially benefit them because of those interests. Arizona law, statute 33-1811, states that governing board directors with such conflicts must declare the conflict in an open meeting of the board before the board discusses or takes action on such an issue or contract. Though the law states the law states the director may then vote on the issue or contract. And then the second, pertaining to the board, the governing board strongly prefers that directors abstain from discussion or voting.
Okay,
And
thank you, Ann.
I will add, because my committee spent so much time on this and requested this go back to the board, I feel like that would be appropriate to go back to them. I think
Go back
that
to
would
the
be
committee.
appropriate. But
Okay, directors, do you have any suggestions, corrections, things that you might want to add or talk about? Roberta?
I just had a couple of questions because I didn't think there was anything wrong with the original. When you're saying, when you say the interest, are you strictly talking financial interest?
Good question.
that is an excellent question, Roberta. I think it has been assumed that it would be a financial interest.
Okay. Because it's sort of implying, the way I read it, that it says materially, and that's why I asked financial, because all of us are members of organizations in this community that you're almost saying that none of us can participate in any of those discussions.
If you go up to the part that's in black, it says, there is a strict prohibition for any employee, committee member, or governing board director of the association who has or whose relatives have a substantial interest in any sale, purchase, or service to the association from participating in any manner in such contract, sale, or purchase. I don't think this refers to us being members of an organization here. I think this is vendor relationships.
So it's basically monetarily.
Yes,
Okay.
that's how I would see it.
Other comments, questions? Sharon?
This is just a question regarding family. Family is a really broad term. Could it be immediate family? Because you're talking about aunts, uncles, cousins. Family now is huge. So it just, to me, would be better if it specifically stated what kind of family you're talking about. That was just a comment. Because, again, you use the word relatives who have a substantial interest. What relatives are you referring to? Again, that comes back to family. Do we signify what kind it is? And to Roberta's question about financial, to me, if you're not including other things other than financial, then that means, for example, I'll use myself as an example. I sit on the board for Northwest Valley Connect. I'm on their board of directors. So if something came through to you where you had to do a contract with me, would I not disclose that and excuse myself from the voting? That is an organization. So again, that organization would be making funding off of it. So I don't think we should just say that it's just the it's not including the organization. I don't know how to put it in, Nan, but I don't want to leave it out because it will come up. Because like Roberta said, we're on other boards or we're sitting on other committees.
Jim?
And I appreciate the work your committee is trying to do. I'm not understanding the reason for the changes, though. It doesn't seem to make sense to me that we would go through to this extent. We already sign conflict of interest forms each day. We identify who we are involved in. If something does come up, the only thing I can ever remember in my time on the board has been we had some boomers. We were doing a vote on a boomers thing, and we all had to identify that we had this conflict, and but we decided to go ahead and vote. But I've never heard of any of the problems that are described in this policy. Why are we doing this?
Well, this is something that was brought forth by a committee member.
Mm-hmm.
And the committee voted, I believe it was 5-2, not to accept what was originally given by the attorney and to move forward with re-revisions, which these are.
I see. It feels like we have a solution looking for a problem to me, frankly.
Well, I would kind of have to agree with you. I do not vote on that committee unless there's a tie.
Unless we're talking about the general manager stealing money or something here from a vendor, then I think we're kind of chasing our tail on this stuff.
Well, I would agree. And Sharon, to your question about family, I think when they talk about material, if you've got an uncle who, founded Apple computers and we're buying smartphones, I just don't think that's going to be material to me. It wouldn't be.
No, it wouldn't be, but if the uncle happens to own a business that's here in Sun City West, and
Then
That
you
would
would
be an-
disclose it.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. you would
That's
just-
why the only reason I said what's family include. That's why
Yeah,
I'm
well, I just
asking.
think you disclose it. If you think there's any, I think all of us are bound, if we think there's any kind of conflict, we would disclose it. So,
The other, excuse me, Madam President,
You have your hand up?
I did.
Okay. Go
The
ahead,
other-
Jim.
The other thing that I would sort of challenge the committee having, the last statement there, the governing board strongly prefers that directors abstain from discussion or voting is certainly presumptuous on their part to even suggest that to us. That would be something that the board would have to vote on. And should be on every decision instead of as a blanket statement such as that, in my opinion, anyway.
I will note that to the committee.
Tim?
Thank you. I'll make the comments that I made at the meeting the other day. This statute starts with the words something similar to notwithstanding anything in the association's declarant or governing documents, which basically says that statute trumps whatever you want to put in your policies, okay? The second part, the governing board strongly prefers directors abstain from discussion or voting, has no teeth. Because if you can prefer somebody not do it, but if they want to do it, they're going to do it. So I think that last statement doesn't need to be there at all. So, and most of the language in here is taken, if not verbatim, but the spirit of that statute, 1811.
It's taken right from the written law.
Right.
Except for that last statement. Okay, other discussion?
Sue,
Yes.
there are
Yeah.
3 members of the Budget and Finance Committee here who were involved in that discussion. Would it be appropriate for them to make any comments if they wanted to at this point for the board?
Certainly, from the audience, yes.
Yes, if
they
any of
wanna
those
Come up and make
who
a
are
comment.
here.
That's great.
Gary Bosak, 102585. Could I get the document back up on the screen, please? The committee member that originated this happens to be an attorney, a very, very bright one. She's made strong cases for the arguments of the various points made. My particular interest in it was where it says the employees, committee members involved in such interest must abstain from participating in any discussion or decision-making process. And then down below, it said that, this may not be the same one we looked at the other day, but
Second to the last sentence.
voting is part of the decision-making process. So if you have to abstain from the conversation, but then you're able to vote, it seemed to be a conflict.
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
understand that. The point was
The
made,
law,
Tim
right.
made that point Tuesday at the meeting.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, the law takes precedence over what we would put in.
Dick Rhodes, 125793. I'm also on the Budget and Finance Committee. We would applaud the construct of that paragraph. The only thing, or the thing that took the most exception was that very last sentence. Because we thought, and I think that Tim said it has no teeth. And voting is part of the decision-making process. If we go to the extremes about prohibiting discussion, disclosure, and then when it comes down to that very last sentence, the board strongly prefers that you abstain from voting. It doesn't say you restrict or that you can't. I think our position was, if we're going to go to those extremes in the upper part of the paragraph, then when it comes down to completing the process, that we're going to still permit them to vote. So I think you could just eliminate that last sentence, and I wouldn't have any objection at all.
Tim?
Yeah, I just want to make a point about committees, and this may be something that parliamentarian might want to talk about. Committees don't actually vote, okay? They reach consensus on what they want to forward to the board. The boards are the only ones that vote. So saying that committees voted to do this is not proper use of the word voting.
Duly noted, Tim. So there was majority consensus to move this forward, to use the correct terminology.
We do have our association attorney here. James, do you want to weigh in at all on our discussion?
Good morning, James. I'm working with what comes out of the committee, and I respectfully try to work with what's there. And I thought I took the concepts that you had there, and what I was trying to do is make it consistent with the statute. I don't know that I necessarily agree with the legislature did, whatever it was, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, where they said that in a governing board meeting, you have to declare in a board meeting, you have to declare the conflict, and then the director may vote. So that's what that says. So I was trying to distinguish their things that were happening in the committee level, with the director, because the statute doesn't address committee level. So, but you want, meaning you, the committee, the board hasn't voted on this yet, there to be no discussion by a director or a committee member who has a conflict or the decision-making process. I know they don't really put the policy into effect, but they decide to send it to the board, so that's that. And then the next two sentences were really referring to the statute and what just happens with the directors in the governing board meeting, where that's where you have to declare it. You've already said earlier, like, you want to know at the earliest possible stage, but you have to at least declare it in the meeting, and then you may vote. And the reason I put the last sentence was, again, the board has to approve it. The committee may or may not send it that way. Do you strongly prefer that directors abstain from discussion or voting? When they can do it, they can clearly vote. The statute doesn't use the word discussion, but they say you have to declare the conflict before any discussion. So you probably, I'm guessing, prefer that they don't participate in the discussion. But you may turn around and say, well, I know you have a conflict, but can you explain to me something? And so, you may actually want somebody to discuss the contract or their family relationship or whatever it is, And I think the committee could go back. The statute itself actually refers to, for the board meeting scenario, any contract that would benefit any member or any person who's a parent, grandparent, spouse, child, or sibling of a member of the board, or a parent or spouse of any of those persons. So could go ahead and put that in there instead of the word family if you want that specificity. So any questions about that? Like I said, I was trying to, I thought we pretty successfully got what the committee wanted there, but so any questions?
Anybody have any
Not from
questions?
me, James, thank you.
Okay, where do we want to go with this? Ann, what are you thinking? It's your committee.
Well, I wasn't supporting it from the committee, but I was doing what the committee requested.
Okay,
So I would not vote for it right now.
okay.
But that's just,
Are you
you
thinking that we should table this and take it back to the committee and they can have
that would probably,
that feedback
probably
from
be
us?
best. And I think
What do the
that-
rest of you think? What's your opinion? Back? Table it and go back to the committee? Okay. Sure, well, of course, yeah, she'll
Well,
explain.
I will direct them to watch this meeting.
Yeah.
That's going to be the
Okay,
best.
so
Just a
that'll be
moment,
the end of
Karen
the next
has-
month. Karen? Just a roll call or whatever. Okay.
Hi, Lynn
We have
Kellis,
one
129.
more audience comment.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
My question is for James. I guess the question I have is if we should be recusing ourselves because of the conflict, shouldn't it be up to the board to vote whether or not that person should be allowed to vote? Knowing what's...
Yeah, the statute.
I think conflict the director has the duty really all of
So it falls on the individual to
But
determine.
you can say what your preference is, That's why I came up.
So in other words, the rest of the directors could comment on the fact that they think that so-and-so should not vote or should be able to vote, but that's not part of the statute. Right? Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was
Okay.
just wondering because what Shannon had talked about, family, sometimes it might be somebody's close and it would really be a conflict, or it could be a third cousin down the line and not be a conflict.
Right.
But it just sure seems that there should be someone within that committee or the committee have a consensus, or, whether that person should be allowed to vote or not. That's all.
Okay, thank you. All right, so Karen wants us to identify, do I have approval to table this and send it back to Ann's committee? Jim? Yes. Sharon?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Donna?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
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 Okay. All right. Okay, now the fun part begins because we are going to take a little field trip over to the Prior Village store and give us some information before we come back to deal with this item on the agenda. So the video will stop at this point and pick up when we come back. We should be about 15 minutes. That won't matter, I guess, on the audio because and the video, because they'll take care of that. But away we go, and let's do this quickly. Okay, we've had our tour, and now we're ready to continue on with the rest of our meeting. And I believe, Roberta, you have a motion so that we can have discussion and voting on the next issue.
I move that the governing board approve the general manager's request for funds for the village meeting room and CC&R office project in the amount of $162,381.85 to secure the agreement with the general contractor and meet the May 23rd, 2022 bid expiration date.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Donna? Thank you. Okay, I think the discussion and some of the conversation about this, I think I'm going to turn that over to Bill.
Thank you.
And maybe with the assistance of Carl.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Good morning. Did a brief tour now as far as the village meeting room and the proposed CC&R offices go. The renovation funding is being requested to enhance operational use of the office space and utilization efficiencies. The CC&R division has been operating out of a hallway and storage area within the social hall since the rec centers began managing that operation back in July of 19. During a recent improvement project with the social hall, CC&R divisions was then relocated again over to the lunchroom, and now our staff is sharing that and other office space with rec center administrative staff. The CC&R group deals with hundreds of annual cases, some of which are very sensitive issues, and privacy is a major concern. These meetings and interviews in these locations become very awkward for both staff and our customers. And then recent utility space improvements came at a cost of meeting room reductions at both Beardsley and the Palm Ridge Recreation Centers. Available meeting space for owner members, chartered clubs, and staff have been reduced. The relocation of the village store provided an opportunity to convert that facility to some well-needed venues for operation. The room being proposed will house the CC&R department, and with the installation of a dividing wall will help resolve the need for additional meeting room space. The construction improvements have been bid with the following results. Haynes Build Construction LLC, $123,000 for their work. $3,500 goes to Maricopa County for review and permits. The local fire system review and permitting is about $1,000, and then CC&R furniture and contingency is estimated at about $35,000. Within the improvements of the facility and the creation of these two spaces, several efficiencies and code compliance issues will be addressed. The breakdown of the bid specifications require new HVAC unit with re-engineering ductwork for about $25,000. This is the breakdown of the 123. New electrical LED lighting code corrections within the electrical panel that link all these buildings together for about $30,000. Installation of a new ceiling grid for $10,000, and then all the demolition, framing, masonry work, the doors, the windows, flooring, etc., for $57,000. We are requesting $162,381.85 for this project, with approval prior to the May 23 bid expiration date. If approved, the recommended funding for these improvements would come from a portion of the current fiscal year's budget of unspent allowance funding. We appreciate your consideration and an opportunity to make these improvements. Carl is here on hand if there are any questions relative to the construction project, and we appreciate your support. Thank you.
Okay, questions, comments from directors? Jim?
I do. May I ask Roberta, your committee sent this to the board. What was the discussion levels? What was there? Was there problems with any of what we're saying?
Well, some of the question on the furniture, cost of the furniture, and we were assured that we were, as I called it, and it was in the minutes, that we're putting in Chevrolet furniture and not Cadillac. And that includes the cubicles, don't forget cubicle costs. So.
Part of that's a contingency as well.
Yeah.
Which should take care of that. And Bill, is this, there's sufficient contingency money available to spend on this from, what, is that putting us in any kind of jeopardy for future, if there's something a pump should go down or something, or a drill, a well?
Right, there are obviously about 4 or 5 items as far as our allowances go. Pumps are one item as an
Wells, yeah.
isolated feature. Knock on
Right.
wood, if there's any nearby. Regarding pumps, they could go at any time. Those are typically about $90,000
Yeah.
As far as getting those fitted.
Right.
There's still adequate supply there. In talking with our finance team, they feel pretty sufficient and confident that there's adequate funding there. Mr. Finelli's not in the room. I don't know if Cliff, if you've got an idea on what the balance of that funding is. It's close to 4. Oh, Mr. Finelli walked in. Put him on the spot. Pete, what's our current balance, to your best of your knowledge, regarding our allowances and what's coming out of this 163?
The second part, did you say a definement of what makes up the 163?
No.
No.
What's our balance after if this 163 is approved?
Okay, good. The, would be in the minutes of our BNF, because we declare that every month. It's a beginning balance of 395. We'd spent approximately 90, a little over 100, I should say, through February. And this 165 would then leave, I think, about 140.
Okay.
Yeah, I live outside on Grandview, and just outside my back door, they've just spent a week working on the well. So I know that this is still something that can happen anytime, so.
The project work that you're seeing on Grandview now is a preparatory work budgeted, completely different line item out of capital
Okay,
for the overall improvements going on to Grandview, which
I
will
see.
pick up big next year.
okay.
Other questions from the directors? Questions from the audience? Okay, I assume then we're ready to vote. Roberta, you want to read it again?
I move that the governing board approve the general manager's request for funds for the village meeting room and CC&R office project in the amount of $162,381.85 to secure the agreement with the general contractor and meet the May 23rd, 2022 bid expiration date.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, let the construction begin. All right, master plan, next steps discussion. Bill, you want to bring us up to date on where we plan to go with the results of our survey and our presentation?
Thank you. There was a brief report at, I believe, last month's work study and workshop presented by Michelle Mace. Where we're at now, we hope to come back in the May workshop to basically deliver a lot of the analysis of that survey. A little over 5,300 folks have graciously filled out the online survey that was taken, and now basically it's being really dug into by the consultants to help us find insights and priorities that we can utilize in our overall planning status. So those will all be presented at the May workshop. So they're going to cross-examine a lot of the data based on folks' age, the tenure of longevity here within Sun City West, the seasonality of some folks, and who's responding, and how those questions are answered based on needs and wants. So opportunities we're looking for, anything that we can control, how we deal with our amenities, how we program, and the infrastructure within the association is going to be assessed. We'll also be discussing, I don't know if there's a slideshow accompanying this, I couldn't see behind me, but we're all good. Again, we are currently having public workshops with our irrigation consultant now, leading up to the construction of a new irrigation system at Grandview Golf Course. Along with that, the master plan will touch on all of the water responsibilities that we do have, linking us to the Arizona Department of Water Resources, how we deal with the 2025 Fifth Management Plan for the Arizona, how Arizona is dealing with groundwater. And that affects us due to the fact that we have water rights within the state of Arizona. We use groundwater to irrigate our golf courses, and we have to play within the rules that are being set, and a new rule book comes out 2025. So essentially, that basically deals with water conservation and turf removal for some of the golf courses some of the older golf courses that we have to kind of focus on 5 acres per hole, or about 90 acres playable and irrigated for play. And then lastly, our operational modifications. Again, out of that survey, looking down and working with our groups, we'll be talking with committees. We'll be putting together subcommittees made up of any and all who really want to participate. We'd like to get as much diversity as we can within those groups as far as their participation levels, if they participate in communities or on the Torch Committee or some others that kind of anyone wants to participate with us. We are open to all. But again, we'll be dealing with programming changes and any kind of additions that people are asking for. We'll take a hard look at that. Again, infrastructure change and incremental planning as how that goes. So that's a brief update, and it will be, again, brought to you with a lot more information, I believe, at the first week of May, I believe, as far as the workshop goes.
Okay, any questions of Bill? Tim?
Yes, at the meeting, will you have a idea on cost versus benefit for some of these items? Or is this just going to be results of what the survey turned out?
Pretty much an in-depth insight into what the survey is producing. The upcoming steps that we have within that master plan talk about costing. So that's a whole separate phase, but we just got to get through the priority kind of session as far as that goes. We've got to get our committees in place to talk about some of those things. But in the next couple of phases, was there a slide up there or no? You don't have it? Let me just.
There's a costing phase.
If there is up there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't find that sheet, but there you go. So in order to get the costing phase, you got to get conceptuals first, right? To go through those. So there's going to be a conceptual phase, a costing phase, and an implementation phase. And my bad, I couldn't find that.
Well, I guess my concern was that the costing, cost versus benefit be done at the same time, because people could want a whole bunch of stuff, but until it's finally costed out, you don't know whether the benefit's worth the cost.
No doubt. Thank you.
Yeah, an estimate would be very helpful in making those kinds of decisions. Sharon?
When you review a master plan, one of the committees is a finance committee that is specifically set up to look at the cost, what Tim just said, cost analysis and the basis of being it. Then what you're also supposed to be looking at is ways to decide how you want to raise the money, if you want it to be coming out of whatever you think is the best way to approach it. That's one of the committees specifically that they speak about in the master plan.
Okay. Other questions, comments? Okay, just an update. Okay, let's go on to our goals attainment, the next slide. We've attained totally 2 of our goals, and you've just heard about the master plan and that update. We've just got a little bit to go on communication. Ann, you want to talk a little bit about that? It's almost there.
We're coming down the finish line, we hope. The one thing we've been trying to do is get remote access for our meetings, and I applaud Katie's efforts for this so far. I have one committee member in Budget and Finance who will not be at that April meeting, and I will not be available for the May workshop, and so we are going to do a trial with this, my committee member and Katie and me, this next Tuesday, and try to get that working and know that we've got a plan. Thank you.
Great. Wonderful. Okay, let's, yes, go ahead.
Ann, I don't know, I read something that we're not going to be having emailed questions in for discussion points on board meetings. Is that something that's been decided? Why did we decide that?
You're asking me?
I don't know who I'm asking, somebody.
I've not had anything to do with that, Jim.
I believe we're no longer doing that. The number of people that responded was almost nil. So it seems silly to connect with that. But Katie, you want to talk to that?
During COVID, we did have people submit their questions on the YouTube chat because they weren't able to meet here personally. So now that COVID is over, we want to be back to where you're asking your questions in person. One of the issues with the YouTube chat is it becomes sort of an online dialogue, not necessarily a question and answer format that we would traditionally have at a board meeting. So trying to decide, is that a question, is that a comment, is that a snarky remark? And then if it seems to be a legitimate question, relaying that to you during a live meeting. The logistics of that just get difficult. We didn't have it before COVID. COVID's over. We have in-person meetings. So the thought is we don't offer that YouTube chat. If we did, we need to find a way to get those questions to you or have somebody on the board monitoring those questions live. And there is a delay from the live meeting to YouTube, so it creates sort of a disconnect as well.
And residents who have questions can always come to see me on Monday mornings or just submit the question that they have afterwards and get a response to it. And I do share that stuff with the rest of you.
Those
Jim?
things are all true. I understand that, but it's still what if a person can't get down to a meeting or can't get down to see you on Monday morning? And this is one of the things that we talked about when we started videotaping our broadcasting our meetings, was that they would have this live interaction with the audience at home. So I don't think that's a smart move for us to do. But and I certainly,
yeah, they can email. They can email their questions.
One more
to
thought:
us.
that never came to the board for discussion, and that's, I think, is wrong, because this is something that we report to those folks out there, and now we're having something taken away from that, and we were not even advised of this or even talked about. So I think that that's wrong, that staff did that or somebody did it without talking to anybody on this group.
Katie?
Yeah, when we instituted the YouTube chat, that wasn't something brought before the board either, so it wasn't something the board voted to do. So staff thought the disconnect with the time delay on YouTube makes a live interaction very awkward. By the time someone gets a chat question in, there's about a 40-second delay. We have to review it, relay it to one of you during a live meeting. By that time, you've moved on to another question. So if they're at home and they can't get to a meeting, they've watched the thing on YouTube, maybe they watched it 3 days later, they can email gb@suncitywest.com and we can get them an answer that way. But to try to do it live is just very awkward given the delay.
Do you have any numbers, Katie, on how many times that committees or the governing board received live questions?
Yeah, less than 5. I mean, we did have one today that was just a random, you should close a golf course. So that's what we're trying to, YouTube chat is not live discourse with the board, and it's not part of Robert's rules. It's random comments, people's train of thought that they just drop on the YouTube chat. It's not really a Q&A format.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, that's Tim? No, wait, we got Lisa?
Go ahead. Thank you, President Simons. I think to Director Sloan's comment is we do have residents who are homebound and watch the meeting. And I don't know, Katie, you can answer this, but if there is a way they can email their questions in, and perhaps we have director comments at the end of our meetings. Perhaps there's a way that Katie can take those questions that she gets during the meeting and we can address those questions at the end of our meeting and try whatever questions come in during the meeting and address them that way. But as Jim was saying, I didn't recall this coming, anybody addressing the board. It just, I kind of looked like an idiot in my sports pavilion meeting at the end of my meeting because I looked up but the guys take such good care of me back there, Johnson and Martin and Mike, and I said, oh wait, now I'm looking as I'm going to ask for questions, and I said, look down and say, oh wait, we're not doing online questions anymore. So they were really gracious and said, oh no, it's been removed. So kudos to them for rescuing me on that. But So, I mean, things like that, I guess, it could have been brought to our attention.
And we can encourage the public to send in their questions after the fact. Because like you say, Katie, sometimes people don't watch the meeting in live mode. They watch it 3 days later.
That's the biggest thing. Probably 95%, if not more, of our views are after the fact. And that's why we have the email in place, gb@suncitywest.com. It's been out there for years.
Right, right. Okay, other comments? Tim?
I think this is a teachable moment for us because just as we developed a new policy for the new technology in golf carts, we have no policies on IT or these things. It may be time that we start looking into a possible policy about how to direct the general manager and the staff to do some of these things that we would like to have done. And I recommend that Jim Sloan write it.
Yeah, it's very true. We stepped into this this age of having the meetings videoed as a result of COVID, and we found that it's pretty popular. And we said, "Oh yeah, let's keep it." But we, because we stepped into it, kind of, just because it happened, we haven't really now is a good time to now look at it and determine exactly what do we want to continue and do some writing as a result of that. Okay, Sharon?
Just as a comment, since I speak of a lot for the people with disabilities, because a lot of those people also don't know how to do some of the things that we're asking them to do. So if we had some way of making sure that there are questions they could send in, and maybe we could address them at the beginning of the meeting, before we go on to the next new meeting, address anything that was left over from before. But we get calls after the fact, and we frequently get calls from residents. I get calls from people who have disabilities because they can't figure out what they need to do. So I don't like leaving them out of the process at all. I just don't think it's the right thing to do.
Okay. Okay, that's not really something that this committee took on, but that's an aside to fill us in on information. Okay, other comments in general from directors? Roberta, you've got anything? Barry?
Yes, I just want, so everybody knows, I was listed in the paper, in the Independent, on the Wednesday, Sun City West. My conversations with the gentleman that wrote that article I had last fall when he contacted me and was mad because his partners wouldn't let him golf with him because he hadn't had his COVID shots. And Pat and I discussed it. We sent him a letter that we don't make those kind of policies, that is entirely up to the group. We don't tell groups who they can play with, who they can't play with, or anything else. And then he wrote the article that he'd contacted the management, and he listed Bill's name and Pat's name and my name. Well, just so everybody knows, I'm not the management. I'm on the board. I make policy. And so if you see the gentleman, tell him he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Okay. Lisa?
No comment.
Ann?
No comment.
Donna? Tim? Sharon?
Yes, since you brought up the part, and I did as well, about the 501c4, I'd like to ask that we have an agenda item on our next workshop, specifically designed to discuss the 501c4, what a subsidiary is, not a branch club of a subsidiary, but what we can do so that we could have a conversation as a board about setting a policy so that the community knows what we're talking about.
Okay, we did have that conversation at one of our prior workshops. You don't remember that?
Not have that.
Okay. All right, we'll find a place for it. I thought we had discussed that. Any comments, Jim? Okay, I have just a reminder that the open day for open voting, if you were not able to manage the online voting, is Monday, the 28th, from 10 to 3 at the data center at the library. And then the election results will be announced that same Monday at 3 o'clock at the Data Resource Center. So that's kind of our plan. Any other comments? Bill? Anybody else from the audience?
I didn't know if I wanted
Changed
to
your
go,
mind.
where I
Okay.
wanted to go with this.
Go ahead.
A few months ago, you may have remembered that overnight, Under Armour came in and filmed a commercial at Palm Ridge, our swimming pool, utilizing Michael Phelps was on site and whatnot. Anyway, the TV commercial company enjoyed our facilities so much that they said, "Can we come back and do another commercial?" And so they recently did. And so we didn't, again, they didn't want a crowd drawn to the situation, but that you'll see what's the name of the casino in Glendale? Desert Diamond? Filmed a commercial at the Grandview Golf Course. And so if you happen to see that and recognize the golf course in the background, it looks very, very nice. Todd will say his grass doesn't look as good as it could, but that's Todd. Todd's a bit of a perfectionist, but overall, the commercial came out very, very well. We did see a sample of that they shared with Mr. O'Hara, but if you see that coming up on television in the near future, man, it's a little great PR shot for us.
What company is it?
Name of the company, Katie? No, the name of the film company?
Oh, no, I just want to know what the product is.
It's for the Desert Diamond Casino in Glendale.
Okay, thank you. Our next workshop is April 8th, and the next regular meeting is April 28th. And, yeah, well, I asked for that. Any more comments? Nobody stepped up, Tim. Oh, you thought someone was rushing to speak. Okay, I will adjourn the meeting.